Welcome back. Today is the start of a new series, the Prophecy series, and it's a franchise I've been dying to do for a really long time. The films tell the story of a second civil war in heaven between the angels, fighting over who gets to be God's favourite, them or humanity. But before we get to that, I just gotta figure out how the hell to get down from here.
Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel. Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I
feel. The Prophecy series is something I'm very ambivalent about, because on one hand, I really enjoy the story, but on the other, it's a story that's heavily steeped in religion, and that's something I try to avoid at all costs. So to counteract that, I'll be looking at it in purely fictional terms, nothing more. And if you don't like that, tough. So let's get started. The film opens with some narration from an angel named Simon. He laments the loss of his brothers in the last and the current civil war between the angels, which is in a stalemate. But he's been sent to Earth to end it by finding the darkest soul on the planet to use as a weapon. And then his creepy no eyes fill out, which makes it easier to look the guy in the face. We then move down to Earth as our main character, Thomas Daggett, played by Elias Cotiers, is about to become an ordained priest. He approaches the altar laying down to make his vow, but instead he starts uncontrollably crying, and then gets visions of angels bloody and in pain, as Daggett screams in horror at what he's seen. It's never really explained why or how Daggett got those visions. Maybe he was just that holy. Maybe it's a case of divine intervention. Or maybe he was just the wrong guy in the wrong place. But I actually like that it doesn't get explained, because Daggett isn't some kind of predestined hero. He's just some guy who accidentally got information he wasn't supposed to, which is honestly more realistic than destiny. We then move to several years in the future with Daggett now a cop instead of a priest, narrating that he lost his faith not because heaven showed him too little, but because it showed him too much. Is that how faith works? But really, my interpretation of that is Daggett didn't lose his belief, he lost his faith in God and the afterlife being something worth worshipping. Because how could he really if they're slaughtering each other? Daggett goes home and is surprised to find Simon there perching on one of his chairs. Angels, man. You tell them no, but they always climb on the furniture. Daggett, just spray him with water. That should keep him off in future. Simon tells Daggett about everything that's going on, saying he was in the church the day Daggett lost his faith, and he asks if he still believes he's part of God's plan.
It's a complicated question.
No, it isn't.
Now, you could argue from that conversation that the whole predestined thing has come up again, but I do think that Simon was just generalizing and not being specific about his particular quest. But you could argue either way, and that's a good thing. It's always good when the audience can ask questions and come up with their own answers, meaning the movie stays in their mind. That night, the skies darken and something flies down, and it's actually another angel taking the Matrix approach to fashion with the sunglasses at night. And then he perches on a discarded barricade and waits all night, which is actually just outside Simon's apartment. Simon has just come home and he immediately senses the other angel, who comes flying in through the window as he and Simon collide in mid-air. And the fight is surprisingly brutal, as the angel claws at Simon's chest in a subtle but pretty gruesome effect. Simon overpowers him, impaling him neck first on the broken window, and he takes the guy's glasses off so we can see he's got no eyes, and then he chucks him out the window. It was pretty fortunate the person in that car decided to drive at full speed into a small dead-end alley, isn't it? But with the angels fighting, I really like it because it's not overly elaborate with flying about and some stupid crap like that. It's just brutal fighting to the death. Also, the reason the angel clawed at Simon's chest is because the only way to kill an angel is to remove its heart, which is a delightfully brutal and raw detail. The police are quick on the scene, calling Daggett in on the case. They assume the angel is a suicide, but the broken window makes it more suspicious. The cop tells Daggett the guy's missing his eyes, and in the room they find the results of the fight, with Daggett looking at a newspaper with the death of a colonel circled, next to his book on angels, which is the reason they called him in the first place. And Daggett asks about Chimney Rock, which is where the news article comes from. So then we shift to Chimney Rock itself, a small town in Arizona, and Simon's there to visit the corpse of the colonel from the newspaper. He goes to the church where the guy's having an open casket ceremony, and Simon takes the opportunity to give the corpse a big snog.
Qui ex patre, filioque procetis.
Let's be honest, that's perfectly acceptable. Simon's just doing something we've all wanted to do, right? Right. Moving on. The next day, Daggett goes to the morgue to investigate the body of the angel, and the coroner goes over the facts with him. And they're quite strange facts. Like, the guy's not just missing his eyes, he never had any. Also, he has the body chemistry of an aborted fetus, so he was never born. There's also...
He's also hermaphrodite.
It's actually kind of cool to look at the anatomy of the angels. It makes the whole scenario that much more real. Because they could have written it as the angels are made of sunshine and saints' tears or some bullshit like that. But no, they went in a very logical direction with it. And I appreciate the attention to detail. The coroner also tells Daggett that the guy was carrying a handwritten Bible, which has a symbol in it which matches the scar on the guy's neck. And Daggett, being well versed in biblical literature, notices the Bible has an extra chapter that shouldn't be there. So he takes the book and starts translating quite nonchalantly. You'd think someone who was almost a Catholic priest would go insane over the possibility of a new Bible chapter. The extra chapter talks about the second heavenly war between the angels, and Daggett looks up the symbol on the guy's neck. It's actually the symbol for an angel named Uziel, who's the lieutenant to Gabriel, the angel of death. And because his lieutenant is dead, our angel of death shows up on Earth. Best casting choice ever. Yes, Christopher Walken as the Angel of Death. Come on, it doesn't get any better than that. Just from the way the guy moves as he breaks open the apartment door, you know he's a goddamn badass. He also licks some blood off a table, because why the hell not? So he knows Simon's involved. Christopher Walken has kind of become a parody of himself in recent years, and it can be hard to take him seriously. But although he can be over the top, he is acting at his best in this film. And you can tell he's having one hell of a good time as Gabriel. But more on Gabriel later. Back at Chimney Rock, we're at a school and we're introduced to a young girl, Mary, who's one of the film's more important characters. She and a few friends are playing hide and seek in the school's disused building, and while Mary looks for her friends, she instead finds Simon, who's hiding out in the building as he's quite severely wounded. And Simon asks Mary to keep him a secret for now, which she happily does. We then move to an incredibly disgusting apartment and a horribly depressed guy. And he's horribly depressed because he's Gabriel's lackey, who's keeping the guy alive after killing himself. And Gabriel appears because he has a job for him, to destroy the evidence of the dead angel.
Don't stop. You know how I hate that.
I'm so tired. I'm so goddamn tired.
Watch the profanity.
It's really good how quickly the film illustrates that although the guy is essentially immortal, it's nowhere near the gift it might seem, and essentially Gabriel is putting this guy through perpetual torment by keeping him alive, showing Gabriel's disdain for humanity by not caring about the suffering he's putting this guy through. Meanwhile, with Daggett, the coroner tells him that the book is incredibly old, 2nd century old, with Daggett saying that would make it possibly the oldest Bible in existence. Why they don't treat it like the greatest historical and biblical find of the century is beyond me, but anyway. Daggett goes over the translation with the coroner, telling him how the book talks about the Second Heavenly War and how it doesn't say it ended, but it does prophesize instead, as Daggett reads directly from the translation.
And there shall be a dark soul, and this soul will eat other dark souls and so become their inheritor. This soul will not rest in an angel but a man, and he shall be a warrior.
As prophecies go, that was pretty bland. There's a guy who eats souls. That's pretty much all it said. And that's the prophecy the film's named after. That's quite the letdown. The coroner's not taking any of it seriously, but Daggett's pretty convinced considering the dead body they found, which is Gabriel's cue to walk into the morgue.
I'm gonna need to see a pass.
Did he kill that guy? I want to think he just knocked him out, but he is the Angel of Death, and he hates humans, so yeah, that's kind of fucked up. Gabriel then takes Uziel's body, and it's clear he cares about his dead brother-in-arms, and is saddened by his death. cause he is destroying evidence, but he's also laying a friend to rest as he places the body on the ground and anoints him. And you know that thing badass characters like to do when they throw the cigarette over their shoulder to light something on fire? Yeah, Walken doesn't even need a cigarette, he's that badass. We move back to Chimney Rock and are introduced to Virginia Madsen's character, the school teacher Catherine. She notices that Mary's not arrived for class and goes looking for her, knowing she's playing in the old building. She searches the building and finds Mary with Simon. She tells Mary to go back to class and Simon that he can't stay there, thinking he's a hobo. But he just tells her not to call the cops and to leave, which she does. Not really doing anything about the stranger talking to the kids, which seems logical. And because Catherine left pretty quickly, Mary comes back to talk to Simon.
There's something that I would very much like to give to you.
I don't like where this is going.
Can you keep a secret? The biggest secret ever.
What is it?
Mary, stranger danger. Seriously, this is not good.
Close your eyes.
Oh god. Well, that happened. Not sure if I should be watching this now or submitting it as evidence. And wouldn't you know it, Mary's now sick. Some might say it's because she was passed the soul of the Colonel by Simon. I say it's because she kissed a guy who recently played tonsil tennis with a corpse. But, you know, that's just me. Back with Daggett, they found the Angel's burning remains and all the files and evidence have been stolen by Gabriel's lackey, and Daggett reasons he has to go to Chimney Rock to investigate what's going on. Gabriel goes through the stuff taken from the police station, not finding much of interest, until he comes across the newspaper. But the guy wants to be set free from Gabriel's servitude.
You promised.
Soon. Don't be a pest about it.
Never trust a fucking angel.
I really like their interactions together, because you can tell that Gabriel just keeps these people around to do his dirty work for as long as possible, and more than likely they die again doing his jobs for him before he actually honours his agreement. Kinda makes Gabriel a real bastard, really. That's why I love him. And while driving to Chimney Rock, there's some more great dialogue between them.
It's a big universe, Jerry. Some things in it are talking monkey work. Monkeys. Like you.
Interesting. It's almost like the movie's saying humans did indeed come from primates. Maybe Gabriel just wanted to be insulting, but it's still an interesting comment. They find the graveyard where the Colonel is buried, so they start digging him up. Well, the lackey does anyway. And eventually they get to the body, and Gabriel's very excited to meet the guy, saying he's the meanest, sickest human on the planet. Unfortunately, when he goes to give him a kiss, he sees that the Colonel's soul has already been taken, and Gabriel can sense Simon going to the school pretty much immediately to talk to him. Gabriel gets right to the point, asking if he's got the soul, which of course Simon doesn't. He tries to run, but he gets tripped and brought back, and then there's some more great dialogue from Walken.
Why are you doing this, Gabriel?
The vault was mine. I bound no human in heaven.
But the word.
No one hears the word anymore. No one.
Without the word.
There's only the argument. I'll not step aside. I will not allow any talking monkey take my place. I'll burn down heaven to stop it.
A lot of what's being said doesn't mean much to us, but we get a vague understanding. It shows that the war is far more complex than just fist fighting, such as not being able to hear the word, which I assume means that God is keeping stum on the whole affair. We also see why Gabriel is so invested in the war, because he doesn't want to share heaven with humans, who he considers inferior to him. It gives his character real depth, because he's doing what he thinks is right for heaven, and as such doesn't consider himself a bad guy, making him a great villain. Gabriel tries to tempt Simon to his side of the war, saying he wants to make heaven like it was before, as in before human creation. But Simon admits that he doesn't know which side is right or wrong, but just wants the war to end because he's tired of it. So Gabriel does what he does best. He grabs Simon, setting him on fire, and throws him to the side to prolong his pain, continuing to ask where he put the soul. But Simon's not giving it up, forcing Gabriel to tear out his heart, killing him. There was some good insight into Simon's character. He's someone fighting the war just obeying orders, because it's unclear which side he really agrees with. But regardless, his devotion to the cause, and I guess to God, has made the choice for him. I have to commend this film for giving us such nuanced characters. It's a lot more than just, this guy's good, this guy's bad, and as such makes them much more realistic. The next day, Catherine goes to see how Mary's doing. The doctors found nothing wrong with her, but as she's Native American, her elders sense something is wrong, performing some kind of ritual, and Catherine finds Mary's drawings depicting war and grisly deaths. So yeah, I guess the soul of an evil colonel is having an effect on her. Daggett arrives at Chimney Rock, where the colonel is buried, with the gravedigger telling him he's had to bury the guy a second time, and mentioning someone who's burned to death. Daggett suspects a connection with his burned corpse, as he goes to the school finding a St. Christopher's medal that Simon took from his apartment when he was there. He speaks with Catherine, who I'm starting to suspect is the only person running this school. Daggett asks about Simon and if anyone spoke to him, which is when Catherine mentions that Mary spent time with him, and after they finish speaking, we see Gabriel watching from above. Daggett goes to the colonel's home to investigate possible skeletons in the guy's closet. He finds all the colonel's stuff from when he fought in Korea, as well as a roll of film. He plays the film and it shows the carnage the colonel indulged in Korea, with mentions of cannibalism as the film shows mass graves and human impalement. Daggett sees the colonel holding a briefcase, the one that was with the film, and when he forcibly opens it, he finds the colonel doesn't have skeletons in his closet, but people's faces, which really hammers home why the angels think he really is the most evil human soul they could find. A bit later at the local church, Daggett's gone perhaps for some spiritual guidance. There's no investigative reason to go there, but instead he finds Gabriel, and they talk. Gabriel says Daggett's name, Thomas, and he wants to know how he knew his name, which leads into another damn good badass Walken moment.
Hey, look at me. I want to look at you. You know how you got that dent in your top lip? Way back, before you were born. I told you a secret. Then I put my finger there, and I said, shh.
I gotta admit, Gabriel is quickly becoming my favourite villain of all time. It's so difficult to find such an evil character that you can't help loving for their badassness. The next day, Gabriel talks with the school kids to find the soul.
There and there. Put your lips there. Pucker your lips and blow. Just a little bit. It's trumpet special.
Very good.
I like to think that's some kind of heavenly weapon Gabriel sometimes uses. He's looking in the kids' mouths, kinda creepily searching, and asking who talked to Simon, and he finds out that Mary has the soul. But Catherine shows up, making the kids leave, and it's really great how Walken acts nice to the kids, but immediately shifts into the don't fuck with me mode, showing how cunning and clever he can be when dealing with specific people. Back with Daggett, he's talking with Mary about Simon, and she tells him that Simon gave her something to keep secret, and she's reluctant to say what it was, but she suddenly becomes all possessed.
Ever cut off a Chinaman's head? They don't bleed. Not like we do. Or maybe it was just the cold.
Which is really well acted for such a young actress. It's impressive. Mary's taken inside with Catherine and Daggett talking. She wants to know what's going on, and Daggett tells her about the angels. And he makes a good point, that in the Bible, whenever God wanted someone dead, he sent an angel. And that is why the angels are angry. They don't like serving, and as Daggett puts it, while having one wing dipped in blood. And it honestly makes a lot of sense when put that way. It means that the angels are just as likely to have the same kind of character flaws as we do. It makes them more real, and as a result, interesting. Because let's be honest, a film full of baby-faced glowing demigods who know and can do no wrong would be insanely boring. Daggett wants to know where to find Gabriel, and surprisingly she knows where to look, taking Daggett to an old mine shaft. Why she's so confident Gabriel's there, I've no idea. She saw his car there, but that's still a pretty big leap of faith. They walk down to the mine, and they do indeed find where Gabriel's staying, and it's covered in angelic script. The place then starts getting quite trippy, as they both see an angel impaled on a stake next to the thousands upon thousands of them all screaming. And to stop it, Daggett throws a lamp which explodes against the wall, ending whatever kind of vision that was. And outside, they both realise what they just saw and know Gabriel's after Mary. They get back to Mary's trailer, bashing open the door, finding Gabriel already there. Daggett holds Gabriel at gunpoint, but his lackey runs in, tackling him to the ground, forcing him to shoot. But the guy does thank Daggett for killing him, as he finishes him off with a shot to the head. It says a lot about Gabriel's supposed immortality when that is such a release for the guy. Gabriel subdues both Catherine and Daggett, with her wanting to know why he's doing this.
I'm an angel. I kill firstborns while their mamas watch. I turn cities into salt. I even, when I feel like it, rip the souls from little girls, and from now till kingdom come, the only thing you can count on in your existence is never understanding why.
Gabriel has a rather large penchant for making badass speeches, but they're never just, hey, I'm a badass, don't fuck with me speeches. Well, that's the main reason he does it, but they always give us some good insight into his character, with that last one making it clear that he doesn't answer to anyone. Death is his business, and it's completely remorseless. Gabriel approaches Mary again, but she's prepared as she guns down Gabriel. Well, I say guns down, it just momentarily phases him, long enough for Catherine and Mary to get out of a window. And outside the trailer, Gabriel's still coming, but Catherine fires at him, hitting the gas tank on the trailer, and the whole thing goes up in a ball of fire, seemingly taking out Gabriel in the process. Catherine tends to Daggett's injuries, and the cops have shown up at the scene. Daggett tells them to cuff Gabriel, even though they insist he's dead. And while they get him in the car, Mary, speaking as the Colonel, tells Daggett that you need to remove their hearts to kill an angel properly. No idea how the Colonel knows that. Seems a bit too convenient if you ask me. And before Gabriel is driven away, he wakes up, giving Daggett a cheeky wink. That probably would have been a good time for Daggett to yell to the officers who Gabriel will kill that they were in danger, instead of just looking dumbfounded. And yeah, as I just said, Daggett and crew drive down the road and find the car Gabriel was in torn to pieces, and the two cops dead. If only it could have been prevented, or at least warned about. Our heroes get to the top of a mesa where Mary's clan will be performing the exorcism ritual, and the Colonel does consider their location strategically advantageous.
A man could, with the proper defenses, hold off an entire battalion.
While the clan starts the ritual, Gabriel goes to the local hospital, telling the woman on the desk that someone's about to die. And then he subsequently knocks out, or again possibly kills, the woman, and starts looking for his new lackey in the intensive care ward. Gabriel goes down the row, finding mostly recovering patients, which he can't work with, but then he finds someone on their literal deathbed. Wait a second, Amanda Plummer? Amanda Plummer, Eric Stoltz, and Christopher Walken? That's a bizarre combination of tertiary Pulp Fiction characters. It's strange, but I like it. Gabriel does his thing, resurrecting the woman, and interestingly, when she wakes up, she doesn't thank him, she starts crying, like she knows she's been wrenched from death, and the peace that would have given her. I like how this immortality is never shown as a gift, but a curse, which is something rarely seen in films. Back at the clan village, Catherine is outside to recuperate, and that's when the head honcho shows up, Lucifer himself. And yes, that is Viggo Mortensen, as possibly one of the best depictions of Lucifer I've ever seen.
I can't do this.
I can lay you out and fill your mouth with your mother's feces. Or we can talk.
Wow, that's quite the choice there, Lou. You make a persuasive argument. Lucifer talks with Catherine, confirming that he is indeed who we know he is. But he also says that the war that's going on at the moment has nothing to do with him. The war has actually stopped people from entering heaven. And you'd think Lucifer would be all for the destruction of mankind, but no, actually he doesn't want the competition.
I know that this new heaven will just be another hell. You see, I'm not here to help you, little bitch, because I love you or because I care for you, but because two hells is one hell too many. And I can't have that.
That's actually a pretty good twist, that Lucifer becomes an unlikely ally. And it's all for self-serving reasons too, so it's a good way to keep him in character. But the reality of the situation is, if Lucifer is coming to your aid, then you might be pretty fucked. But he is offering to finally open up heaven, so it's a pretty tempting arrangement. After all, temptation is his game. At the village, Daggett's setting up a chain as a trap, and while he does, Lucifer appears again, not really caring about personal space. He tells Daggett all about hell, and how it's not lakes of fire, but being from God's sight, which leads into him telling Daggett a way to get to Gabriel, because he said he doesn't hear the word of God anymore. And now's the time to start the climactic battle of the movie, as the clan starts the ritual for Mary again, and they can see that Gabriel is on his way. Catherine locks the hut with Daggett's gun, and as Gabriel drives to the village, Daggett springs his trap, crashing the car, causing Gabriel to fly out of the window. They start fighting, but Daggett uses the information given to him by Lucifer, telling Gabriel he's jealous, and that's all the war is about. And Daggett asks why doesn't he just ask God if he was so determined to prove himself right. But God doesn't speak to Gabriel anymore. He walks to the hut, and Daggett jumps in the car, driving for Gabriel. But the woman grabs Daggett, fighting with him, shouting for him to kill her. And in the hut, Gabriel attacks Catherine, but is stopped as Daggett drives through the wall, hitting him. And picking up a tire iron, Daggett quite brutally beats Gabriel over the head repeatedly, but Lucifer stops him, as Gabriel's weak enough for him to finish the job, as he rips his heart out and eats it, just as the spirit of the Colonel is expelled from Mary's body, which is looking pretty demonic now. But then a literal Deus Ex Machina, as light from heaven stops the spirit, burning it up and sending it away, as Gabriel watches just before dying finally. Lucifer's still chowing down on some heart, which is appropriately gruesome and brutal to watch, with all the blood all over his hands and face. But once he's done, that's when he gets up to his old tricks, telling them that they owe him one, and Catherine will ask him to take her with him, threatening a fate worse than death if she doesn't. But Daggett straight up squares off with Lucifer, telling him to piss off, basically. And then the movie ends, with everyone gathering on the mesa, looking into the sunrise. Yeah, it's sappy as fuck, but oh well. So that was The Prophecy, and I think you can tell just how much I enjoyed this film. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Christopher Walken is amazing in this film. The character of Gabriel walks the line beautifully between a villain you love to hate or just straight up love for being such a badass. Hell, that's why there are 3 movies with him in. But I can't forget the other actors, with Elias Koteas giving real life and weight to a character that might have come off as really bland if done wrong. To Viggo Mortensen for one of my favourite depictions of Lucifer on film. He just oozes slimy evil and you know you wouldn't want to be in the same room with him. And also Eric Stoltz, who plays the weary veteran of a war he's forced to fight in. All the characters are so damn good and well-rounded. It's the characters that make this film really good in my opinion. Without them, then the plot wouldn't be as interesting. And I gotta say, for a religious movie, it doesn't do any proselytizing, which is always a good thing. Like I said, this film was successful enough to spawn 4 sequels, kinda rendering the name The Prophecy pretty redundant, considering there isn't one anymore. But yes, more on that next week with The Prophecy 2 and the return of Gabriel. See you next time.